All right, we are talking leg training today. We've got some majestic music going on in the background, so it's a good day to talk about front squats. We like teaching front squats mainly because the front rack position really is a self-regulator. If somebody is bowing too much, they're not, and they don't have the mobility to squat well, the front squat is going to self-correct. If you are in a bad position on that, you're going to dump the bar. So there's no way there are ways to front squat horribly, but unlike the back squat, which is a great exercise as well, the front squat is going to keep you, and it's going to remind you because of that front rack position, that if you are not squatting with good mechanics, the bar is going to fall off the front. With a back squat, you can bow into it, look ugly, round your back, and it doesn't correct. One nice way to teach front squat progressions is to use a dumbbell. Do a goblet squat or a G squat. You're going to hold this thing like you would a goblet against your sternum, against your stomach, and stay in that position. One of the cues on this is that as you're squatting, you should stay upright enough that that stays positioned against your body. If you're bowing forward, it's going to come off of your body. So if the dumbbell is leaving contact, that indicates you're running with some tightness someplace. For me, it's my ankles. I've got a little bit of ankle tightness that I'm working through, and that limits me a little bit. Yours might be different. We've got mobility exercises that you can either comment and ask for some tips on mobility work. I'll post that and send it, or look at some of our previous postings that go over ankle mobility, knee stability, hip mobility, things like that. You can see quickly with me, it's my ankles. If I elevate my ankles and take it out of the mix, my squat cleans up immediately. That's a good looking squat. So I've got to work on my ankle mobility. This is a good start to teach front squats. So if you can accomplish a good looking goblet squat, it might be time to start, move to a barbell and learn how to hold that barbell in the front rack position, which means that it's going to be resting on my shoulders. A lot of people, when they first start working this front rack position, they'll feel stress in their wrists because they're lacking the mobility in their shoulders and lats and the stability in their shoulder girdle to actually get into that front rack position. There's some ways you can change the grip, but eventually, instead of adjusting your body and doing different movements, gain the mobility that allows you to do this movement correctly. And again, we can comment on that. We can give you some mobility work, or take a look at some of our previous posts. So front rack position, barbell is going to be resting on the meat of your shoulders. The hands are not holding on to it. So you're going to take a little wider than your shoulder width grip, get under the bar, and you can see that right now that weight of the bar is on my shoulders. Hands are loosely gripping it, and my elbows are not down, but that shelf is created by keeping those elbows high and in. Same basic mechanics as a goblet squat. You're going to keep those elbows high and in, squatting into it. And again, what limits me is my ankle mobility. I'm working on that. It's going to get cleaned up. Staying nice and tall. So my wrists don't have any stress. If you're finding that your wrists have stress because you don't have that mobility, you can try a different grip, which is getting in here and taking this sort of a position. Again, I would not suggest that you allow yourself to use this grip for long, because I want you to try to find the mobility in your lats and your shoulders in order to get into the proper front rack position. But you can still do a front squat in this position, and it may be a bit easier for those of you that don't have the mobility in forearms, shoulders, and lats. One of the reasons I mentioned that the front squat is I preferred progression with teaching clients how to do triple flexion extension with a barbell is because it is a self-correcting exercise. If you're doing it wrong, it's hard to do it wrong because you will dump the bar. And let me just kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. So if I'm really lacking mobility in my hips, my ankles, wherever it might show up, if I get in my front rack position, and number one, where it self-corrects is that if you're holding it right here, you should not be front squatting. If you can't get into this position, we need to address shoulder mobility, latissimus mobility, core strength, and all of that. But assuming you can get into this position, now a good front squat is going to be here. That weight is sitting on my shoulders. It's easy to hold. If you're getting too loaded up and your back is breaking, if your elbows are dropping, if you don't have the strength or the mobility in your hips, and you're getting into this position, you're gonna dump the weight. If you're in a back squat, I'm just gonna pick this up. Back squat should be the same as a front squat in that you should be in this tall position and that weight is just resting on my shoulders. But in a back squat, you see it all the time in high school gyms and regular gyms around the world, is that you're in this position, instead of being here, you're bowing forward, but you're still grinding through it. And grinding through that position puts a ton of stress on your back. But my point is, the back squat covers up some mobility issues that you might have. The front squat will expose them. Fix mobility, then load it. Don't load ugly, only load perfect.